What's your message for voters of color? We're concerned that without the Gun and Voting Rights Act, you're not going to get the vote in the midterm.
Well, the concern is misplaced because if you look at the statistics, African American voters are voting in just as high a percentage as Americans. A recent survey, 94% of Americans thought it was easy to vote. This is not a problem. Well, the concern is misplaced because if you look at the statistics, African American voters are voting in just as high a percentage as Americans. Well, the concern is misplaced because if you look at the statistics, African American voters are voting in just as high a percentage as Americans.
Shalom, and give all praise to Yahweh Bashem Yoshua Bashem Rakakadash, double honors to the elders and apostles, the edification and knowledge, and call Yahweh Bashem, the water Yahweh Bashem Yoshua, putting the spirit of the elders and apostles so we can edify regard this truth and knowledge, knowing this truth and knowledge. Call Yahweh Bashem Yoshua Bashem Rakakadash, give all praise to Yahweh Bashem Yoshua Bashem Rakakadash. This is a response to relating to as Mitch McConnell saying about the black voter comment as Americans, talking about the comments he made. Mitch McConnell says black people vote just as much as Americans. It's pretty much saying that he looks a certain way, that blacks are not so-called blacks are not Americans, in a matter of speaking. And when you go deeper than that, that's another lesson itself. Black is a byword. Just like other forms they call Negro, African American, and other bywords they use. So, and they've been labeling those kind of names on us for a long time, man. Not knowing that's not really who we really identify as. But I want to get some scriptures. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment a proverb, and a byword among all the nations, whether the Lord Yahweh shall lead thee. So you're going to become an astonishment, something that's looked at as a surprise, amazed, but not in a good way. A proverb, a byword, such as these labels of terminology, such as black, African American, Negro. They forms of bywords, man. And that doesn't identify who or certain people really are or where they come from, relating to their nationality, true nationality. And this is part of the curses, Deuteronomy 28, man. That all these nations are gonna look at thee like a gazing stock, like mockery, man. Make mockery and reproach about, man. So that's part of the curses, man. Pretty much the lack of respect for a specific category groups of people, man. Just like you saying of black voters as Americans, pretty much saying that black voters, so-called black voters, because that's not what they are. They really, it's deeper than that. And when you look at black is a social construct that was made in 1681, 5 years after the Bacon's Rebellion in 1676, man. So that's a social construct to label specific groups and categories and put them in a box and label who they are, man. It's a social construct. So it goes deeper than that. But he was saying like so-called blacks weren't, I guess they're not American enough, and their vote is not American enough. Just saying. Let's go to some more scriptures. Let's get that word astonishment. Get a regular definition first. Astonishment, a great surprise. Keywords: amazement, surprise, shock. So that's how they look at the nation of Israel, man, the so-called blacks. They look at them as amazement, a surprise, a shock, man. I want to go to Ecclesiastes 10 and 6, Lord willing. Perplexity, bewilderment, incredulity, which is disbelief, dismay, wonder, wonderment. I want to get the King James definition of that. To stun or strike. To stun or strike, dumb with sudden fear, terror, surprise, wonder. To amaze, can be confound. So, shock, surprise, wonder, amazed, and confound. That's astonishment. Let's go to Ecclesiastes 10 and 6. Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in a low place. Now the rich relates to the Israelites. They sit in a very low place because what? They transgress against Yahweh B'Shem Yosha, man. And that folly is that foolishness, man. Because of their foolish and folly and their sin, they're sitting in a low place, man. Let's go to number 7. I have seen servants upon horses, and the princes walking as servants upon the earth. Now the princes represents the nation of Israel. The horses represents power. And I have seen servants upon horses. That relates to the other nations. They're going to be in a position sitting on that horse, in the position of power. And the nation of Israel are going to be walking as the servants on the earth. That's the flip-flop. Because they're made to be in the lowest state. Because they're in the lowest state. Because what? They transgress. So the nation, they're our base nation, are going to be on those horses. And the nation of Israel is going to be serving them, man. Ultimately, these other nations, man. And that's the form of the curses, and that's form of the punishment because they disobeyed Yahweh Bashim Yashab, man. Scripture taught the Lord to send a base of the nations to be in power, man. And that's the ones in power right now. Go to Genesis 36, relating to the descendants of Edom. That's the ones in power, man. Go to Psalm 63. Let's go to Psalm 63. Let me get a big letter. Put it in big letter. This is Psalm 60:3. Thou hast shewed thy people hard things. And that's the nation of Israel. They're gonna be shewed hard things. Those hard things are afflictions, adversities, tribulations. And thou hast made us to drink the wine of astonishment, that wine of confusion, that to make them stagger, man. They'll be drunken by it. And the state and condition they are, relating to the state and condition, the hellish state and condition that they're going to be put in, is through that adversity and hardship. And that all comes from their disobedience to the Lord, man. That's part of the punishment that the Lord has set. Deuteronomy 28, and talking about the curses, they shall follow thee until they pursue thee, until they destroy thee, man. So that's part of that, man. These other nations, Deuteronomy 28:37, talking about that byword, the proverb, astonishment. Part of that is these other nations mocking you, ridicule you, disrespecting you, looking down at you, man, like you're nothing, man. Let's go to Isaiah 30. Go into the rebellious children, saith the Lord Yahweh, that take counsel, but not of me, that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, because they trusted in something else. Because of that, they added sin upon sin. They transgressing against the Lord, man. So they taking counsel other than what they supposed to take counsel in, which is Yahweh Bashim Yashah. Number 2. That walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of the Pharaoh, that's the one in power, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. And that shadow, pretty much, when a shadow comes and it goes, man. So they didn't ask permission by their power to go down to Egypt, man. It was alright to go to Egypt, man. So they took it in their own strength to do it themselves, man. And number 3, therefore shall the strength of the Pharaoh be your shame. So trusting in the strength of the Pharaoh, Shalakia, trusting in the strength of Pharaoh is going to be ultimately their shame and their confusion, man. And it has been, man. And trust in the shadow of Egypt, and trust in the shadow of Egypt, your confusion, man. So trusting in the strength of Pharaoh will be your shame, and the trust of the shadow of Egypt will be your confusion. And that's ultimately is going to happen, man. And that's ultimately been happening, man. Trusting in the strength and the shadow of Egypt for change, for certain things, for example. And really, nothing has really changed, man. Number 5. They were all ashamed of the people that could not profit them. The people that they trusted to ultimately have profit for them was ashamed to them, man. Nor be a help, nor profit, but shame and also a reproach, man. Because they trust in oppression, man. They trust in their oppressor, man. And their oppressor let them down, man. Because the Lord put it that way. You know, he put it in their spirit to ultimately trust in their oppression. So they ultimately will try to trust in their oppression where their oppressor will let them down, man. Because they didn't trust in the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yashah. They didn't trust in their power, man. Because they want a king to rule over them, man, instead of the power of Yahweh Bashem Yashah to rule over them, man. And the spirits that were of the past and the ancient times is those spirits back in now, man. Trusting in things that think they can make change for themselves, man. And historically, you have people that try to do certain things for change in certain category and groups of people in their communities that ultimately their life was, they were cut short, man, you know, because that wasn't what they supposed to do, man. They supposed to trust in the Lord, man. The Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's, for example, leaders like that, man. And they even realized ultimately certain things, but it was too late. And something happened to them, man. So that was their shame, that was their confusion. I'm just using that as a hypothetical example. $31. Woe unto them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses and trust in chariots, because they are many, and horsemen, because they are very strong. But look not into the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord. So those chariots and powers, they are many, and they horsemen, they're strong, but they're not Yahweh Bashem Yashah. They're not in the power of Yahweh Bashem Yashah. That's the point. Let's go down to I'll read 2. And yet ye also is wise, and will bring evil, and will not call back his words, but will arise against the house of the evildoers, and against the help of them that worketh iniquity. 3. Now Egypt are men and not God, and their horses flesh and not spirit. When the Lord shall stretch out his hand, both that helpeth shall fall, and that is hoping shall fall down, and they all shall fall together. So Egypt is men. They're not God. They're not spirit. They don't have the power. They don't have power. They're carnal. So their power is limited, man. So ultimately, ones trusting in that are gonna fall for trusting that. And that's gonna be their shame and confusion, man. And the Lord's gonna make it their shame and confusion. He's been doing it forever, man. Let me see. Yeah, this is just something short relating to that video, that comment relating to Mitch McConnell. I want to give all praise to Yahweh Bashem Yoshua Bashem Rakakadash. I hope this helped his brother Zayah, which means wolf. The water shalom, thanks.